All right, up next, we're going to talk about invoices. So invoices are a little bit different than the link to pay that we discussed previously, where a link to pay is like an online form where anybody can go in there, put in any amount and pay you. The invoice is different in that you're setting a specific amount, specific due dates, sending it to a specific customer and tracking it like as a receivable. So to set up an invoice in our system, you would just come over to invoices. Here you have a list of all your invoices, so you see your customers, the amount of the invoice, the status, the date it was due, terms, etc. Here you just click Add Invoice to add a new invoice. So customer name, you either add a new customer or an existing customer. So we'll just do Joe Business Owner. Save that. You could as well text, so email or text the receipt of the invoice to them. You could have a ship to or bill to if you would like. You could also have stored that on the customer, but in this case I didn't. Billing, so this is where you're going to set up your billing. Invoice date is the date that you're generating it. The due date, so it could either be due upon receipt, net terms, or on a specific date. Purchase order number optional, pay online. This gives them the link to pay online. Accepted payment methods. You could set any linked if you have ACH enabled to be either payable by credit card, by ACH, or by both. And then from here, you're going to enter what you're billing for. So we're going to do, I don't know, test item. So you'll see you can add that. You can adjust quantities. If you click into it, if you have things like tax set up, you could set up a tax on the item calculation. You could, add additional line items. You could add discounts to this, and then you generate your total. You also have an option here for a memo. So if you wanted to say this is for, work done, blah, 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 there's a lot of different, whatever you want to put there, optional as well. So from here, you just click Save and Send. It's going to go ahead and generate this invoice and send it to the customer at that email address, or again, text it to them as well. So to preview this, this is what the invoice looks like on our side. To see what the recipient would see, if you come up here and go to Edit, and you go to Preview, and they would have gotten something that looks like this in their email. It would have just said, please see your invoice. It would look like this. And as you can see, you've got, your information here, obviously. In this case, you've got the items, and they would just go ahead and make the payment. So you could either pay with card in this case, or like I said, we enabled pay with bank account as well. So they would just go ahead and click whichever one they wanted. It's going to pop open the payment form and charge them. And from there, they can print a copy of their receipt. So when that would happen, this would go from past due to just being paid. This one's past due because I did it actually retroactively due, which is a little silly of me, but whatever. You could also add payments. So let's say they called you and they said, hey, I got it. I just want to give you the card over the phone, whatever. You go ahead and click on Add Payment, and it'll pop open a payment window as well. So you can make a payment against this invoice right here. So it'll mark this invoice paid. Delete it, resend it, etc. So that's your basic invoicing here. And then if you came back here, you'll see, for instance, this one's past due as opposed to the others that are paid. Like almost everything in MX, this defaults here. So you can see if you want to see different settings or views here in terms of dates, statuses, amounts, terms, whatever. You can see all that. So that's the basics. I will show you two other things here. Going to the settings. So first, notifications. You might want to get a notification on an email when the invoice is paid. So if it was paid, you would go back in your invoices, you'd see it paid. But let's say you want to get a notification of that. Let's go ahead and click Add Notification. And then you would just do it as a payment notification. And in this case, we would do that for invoice. So, like for instance, you just want to see it for invoice, you would just uncheck all these. I've got a bunch of different options here. This is my test account. You can set it to email. You can set it to text. You can set a webhook if you've got a fancy API set up, notification feed, browser alert, etc. And save it. So that'll give you an email notification. Again, if you want it when the payment comes through. The other thing that I would suggest looking at on this is go to settings and then go to invoices. These are your default settings on the invoice. So you've got default terms. You can set to whatever you want. Payment link is going to be provided. By default, again, we've got card and ACH enabled. Delivery options, I actually disabled text, SMS, so you could send an email. But again, you could also enable texting of the message and as well reminder notifications. So in this case, MX will automatically send a reminder 3 days before the invoice comes due. And if they don't pay it, they'll get another reminder that they didn't pay it 3 days after it's due. So those are the basics there. One last report that you might use here, if you're actually using this, is you do have invoice receivables and aging forecasts. So you can click into there, and you've got some a little bit more reporting for you there. So that's what I got. Any questions, just let me know.